Morning, family. My name is Robert. I'm an addict.
Hey, Robert. Hey, Robert.
I'd like to thank God Almighty understanding for another day clean. Is anybody new? Welcome. Welcome. You're the most important person here today. And anybody new to Camp Mac, welcome. I was asked to do this workshop last night, so bear with me. I like to be a little bit prepared before I start doing a workshop, but it's okay today. Anytime I'm asked to do something, I'm grateful. I'm grateful that somebody's asked me to do something today. The topic is protecting our recovery. I thought about that last night, and I kind of got it mixed up. I thought it said protecting my recovery, but it's our recovery. And it made me understand about the tradition. That's what protects us. That's part of our protection. You know, following the tradition. You know, I remember when I first come to NA, the first meeting I made, how chaotic it was, you know, out of control. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't need to be here. You know, everybody's outside. I thought the meeting was supposed to be inside. And I was just totally confused, you know. But I had to learn that, you know, after being around here for a few 24 hours, that it takes that kind of meetings for people to stay. You know, everybody's got a right to be here. You know, what I thought about it didn't matter. You know, I needed to go someplace where I felt comfortable. You know, I look at my home group, you know, having an atmosphere of recovery. You know, that's important to me, you know. We're in a basement, you come down the stairs, you get a hug. Whether you want one or not, you know, that's my spot. I try to get that spot so I can hug. But whether you want one or not, you look at the expressions on people's faces, and some of them shy from them, some of them want them, some of them don't. But like I say, it doesn't matter. People need to feel comfortable in meetings. And that's our goal, you know. Our goal is making people feel comfortable, catering to the newcomer, you know, because I understand how jittery and nervous I was when I first come. You know, not only was I jittery and nervous, I didn't want to be there. You know, I wanted to stay out there and use with my buddies. You know, I wasn't ready. So today I understand, you know, if you shy away from a hug and don't want it, doesn't matter. You're gonna get it anyway. And we're gonna try to have some discipline and some order, you know, in our meetings. You know, that's important to me. Chaotic meetings where you can't hear, you know, out of control meetings. You know, it just doesn't work for me, you know. But like I say, if that's what it takes for you to recover, then that's fine. The bottom line is everybody's got a right to be here. And like I say, the traditions protect us for our recovery, you know. My recovery is important to me. You know, I don't take it lightly. You know, I don't like to play and horse around in meetings. We got time for that, you know, outside the meetings. Come in here this weekend, have fun, you know, laugh and joke and do whatever you want to do. But when I'm in a meeting, I just take it, maybe I take it too seriously. But my thing is, this is saving my life. This is saving my life. This is the best I've ever lived. The best I've ever lived. You know, I look at the faces out there today, and I look at the people when I come to Camp Mac. You know, the camaraderie, the hugs, the new people. You know, I'm in field today from South Bend. That's important. Learn people's names. You know, walk around and speak to them. You know, I see Mark over there. I see Bob. You know, and it's important. And that's what this is all about. That's the way I protect my recovery. I protect my recovery by reading my literature. That's important to me. Getting up in the morning, reading that daily meditation, it jump starts my day. It gives me something to go on, you know, especially when I'm not in a good mood. After I read that, you know, and meditate on it a little bit, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. And then I protect my recovery. We protect our recovery by the people we hang around. You know, I look at the people I came up here with, you know, sponsees, friends. Those people are important in my life today. And sometimes I don't think I tell them enough how important they are to me, you know. And that's something that I gotta start doing too. I need to protect my recovery. I protect my house, I protect the car. I need to put a protection on my recovery. I look at those sayings sometimes. I look at the toolkit that we wear. I got a toolkit. I got some tools to work with. It's important to make meetings to keep those tools sharpened. I need to sharpen. Never cured. That was a hard thing for me to understand when I first got here. You know, I listened to misinformed people. I'm thinking, well, I'll do this a year, and I'll go back, you know, I'll be all right. That's all I need to clean myself up a little bit. But somebody told me, it says, you're confused. You don't graduate, it ain't no year thing. This is a lifetime thing. You know, and I thought about it, I gotta do this for the rest of my life. You know? But it's good. Today is good. I like I say, I enjoy the way I live today. I think sometimes, like I say, I take things too seriously, but I don't like to joke about this. You know, I remember where I come from. You know, I remember that. I don't want to go back there. How do I do that? I protect my recovery. I make meetings, do the step study, whatever it takes. I don't want to ever go back to walking down those dark streets and those alleys, putting my money in the bucket, and you know the story. You know, dealing with kids talking to you any kind of way. Not being able to take care of my family, not being able to take care of the grandkids. The grandkids come and say, Papa, you got money for the ice cream? Yeah, you don't need ice cream. You got ice cream in the refrigerator? No. It was more important for me to get one more, get that blow, get that rock, get the cigarettes, get the Wild Ice Rose. That was more important. Today, those kids are important. You know, through the grace of God, they haven't seen me, you know, using. You know, I don't want to ever let them see that. You know, give them a chance in life. That's part of what my recovery is about too. Letting them see the good side of life. Yeah, they're gonna see the bad part, but they got a choice. They got a choice today, just like I got a choice. Just like we got a choice. You know, never have to use again. You know, and like I said, when I first got here, I really didn't understand that. I was puzzled. I was confused. But like they say in the fellowship, it's a process. This is something that I had to go through. And through the grace of God, you know, I'm here today. It's a beautiful place. And let me share about this. You know, coming up here to me is, you know, a real special and sacred thing. You know, when I come here and when I enter the campgrounds and look at that water, look at them trees and that peace, I'm here. I'm here. You know, and like I said, the people that I see, I look forward to seeing them. And this is what this is all about, you know. Joe asked me to do this, gets me out of my comfort zone. I'm thinking I'm gonna come here and lay back and relax, but it's all good. It's all good. It gets me to, you know, if you say you're grateful, then you do the things that grateful people do. Sure. You know, crying and complaining. And is this hard? Getting up here running my mouth. You know, talking, you know, talking, you know. But the key to talking is, what do you do when you leave up out of here? It's easy to do this. This is the easy part. What do you do when you go back out there? How do you protect your recovery? How do you function in society, you know? I look at my job, how I treat people on my job, and it's a direct result of the fellowship, you know. Try not to get angry and upset at people. I work with a lot of women, and I have control issues. You know, I got authority issues. I don't like people telling me what to do, and especially female. Steam comes from my head sometimes. But I work the fellowship. You know, what are your principles? What are the steps? What principle you putting on that when you're getting angry and upset with somebody? You know, and it hasn't been easy, but it gets better. It gets better. You know, like I said, I've been coming around here for a few 24 hours, and I understand today that it gets better. The longer you be here, the more you get to understand. You know, things change. I've changed. You know, with the recovery and age. You know, starting to mellow out. I don't get upset as much as I used to. I still get upset too, but that's some of the character defects that I have. Like I say, some anger issues, control issues. I like to be in control. I like to be in control. I don't like people to control me. But I'm getting better at it. Getting better at expressing myself too, you know. I'm getting flashbacks of when I first come here, and I couldn't do this. I'd go to meetings, and open talks, sit way in the back, and I see people laughing and having fun at the coffee pot and talking and the camaraderie, and I'm thinking, why is it not happening for me? You're not involved. You're not doing anything. I had to get involved. Another way I protect my recovery is doing service work at the home group level and the area level. You know, I'm the treasurer for the East area in Detroit, and that's a challenging job. Those area meetings are out of control. Out of control, especially when I first started. But I had to learn. Now, they're okay. They're not gonna get me upset. I'm not upset. I do what I have to do, and then I look at the end of the day, when we're done, we're effective. We've done what we were supposed to do. We transacted the business that we were supposed to transact. We got in the circle, we hugged, and we went home. Bottom line. But before then, I had to take aspirin. Before I went, I had to pray. I had resentments. You know, I had big time resentments with people. But you know, I had to talk to people, and I had to understand that, you know, you're gonna have conflict. I don't care where you're at. You know, you look at city council, you look at governments, they have conflict. So what makes you think that you're around recovering addicts and not gonna have any chaos? In a perfect world, that would happen, but we don't live in a perfect world. And, you know, and that's just some of the things I think about. You know, I think about that literature. That literature to me, you know, reading that book, it's scary sometimes when I read that book, and I be thinking to myself, how did they know? Damn, it hits me right in the gut. I said, damn, how do they know? And then I had to understand that, damn, they're addicts just like you. That's an addict wrote the book, you know. But it's just so deep. And each year that you go over the book, I get a different meaning. I get a different understanding of what it means. And like it says in the book, this is a place for learning. You're never too old to learn. You know, I had the concept that, especially when I first got here, that anybody can teach me. These young folks can't teach me nothing. I'm too old for that. When I come here, I was 44, and I thought, these young guys telling me stuff, no, they can't teach me. Anybody can teach me something today. Anybody. I'm open, you know. I can listen. for so many years I had a listening problem. You know, I didn't want to listen. In denial, like I say, controlled, and all kind of issues. And still there. That, you know, a lot of that stuff's not gone. Selfishness, but the key is working on it. You know, I work on a daily basis. You know, and they made me understand you do the best you can. Do the best you can. And that set me free right there. I do the best I can. Sometimes I fail, sometimes I succeed. They talked about that in the daily meditation today when I read that. Failure and succeeding. Like I say, that's an important part of my recovery, reading that daily meditation. I know it just does something to me when I sit and meditate. And I had to learn how to meditate. I had to learn how to pray. It's important for me to get on my knees. A lot of people say, I don't get on your knees. Well, you don't have to get on your knees. I need to get on mine. I need to get on my knees. And I need to thank him for waking me up. And I need to thank him when I go to bed. That's important. It took me a long time to get there. I was really embarrassed about that. And then maybe not embarrassed, but part of it just soft, you know, when you come from where I come from, getting on your knees. What's wrong with you? Now it doesn't matter. You know, wherever I go, you know, I take time to do that. What you think about it is really not important. It's really not. What's important is that I understand the reason I'm doing it, what my motives are. And it's just to thank him, you know. Especially when I look back and I run that tape back. I don't want to ever go back to that kind of lifestyle again. So it's important for me to protect my recovery, do whatever's necessary. You know, even the things I don't like doing. Do I like getting up talking in front of people? No. That's not my area of expertise. But it doesn't matter what I like. You know, I was asked to do something. Do it and move on. You know. And then not only that, a lot of times when I get up and I'm talking in front of people, I think, well, I'm nervous sometimes, I'm fearful when I look at people's faces, what are they thinking? And at the end of it, or when I'm finished, I'm thinking to myself, wow, I feel good. I done something I didn't want to do. I got through it. And a lot of times, I'll be thinking, wow, is my time over now? I'm through talking, I'm just getting ready to go now. And they're cutting me off. You know, I'm on a roll now, I'm ready to go. Yeah, I was nervous and stumbling at first, but yeah, this is good stuff. This is good stuff. And then, you know, it just gets me outside of myself. It gets me outside of myself. You know, I'm quick to say that the newcomer's the most important person. If he's the most important person, then act like it. You know, give them what they need. Somebody gave it to me. I remember them people talking in front of me, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, I need to hear that. You know, I remember that first talk I went to, and the lady told me, don't watch what I say, watch what I do. I said, wow, that's powerful. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget the first person that directed me to my first meeting. You know, I'll never forget that. And to me, they were protecting their recovery. They were directing me to where I needed to go. As hard as I fought it, I went anywhere. But it was by their direction. Another recovering addict. And the good part to that is that I still see them. And I still see them. And it makes me think that, damn, they're still here. Where the hell am I going? I don't need to go anywhere, you know. And then I've heard that it's better to stay here than to go and try to come back. I mean, you're here now. Yeah. And I thought, I said, dang, you're a pretty intelligent person. And it was that simple. You know. Don't go. Stay here. It's better to stay than to go and try and come back. And I thought to myself, that's so simple. You know, what's hard about that? Stay, no matter what. Yeah, you're gonna go through some rough times. You know, you're gonna lose loved ones. You're gonna have illnesses, but damn, stay. just sticks in my head a lot of times when I get depressed, angry, or upset, or life's not going my way. I think about those sayings. And I hated to hear those words when I got here. I hated to hear people keep coming back. It works if you work it. I'm just thinking all these cliches, and these people are robots. Everybody said the same thing. And then I thought to myself, damn, now you said the same thing. Right. Join the club, but it's all good, y'all. We can laugh today. We can have some fun. Clean. No ulterior motives. No ulterior motives. And the other part of that, I'm kind of drifting off from protecting her, but the other part of that is that we see everybody everywhere. I look at the faces and I think about Atlanta, and I think about Hawaii, and I think about California, and I say, damn, I seen him there, and I seen him. Wow, we go places and we do things up in here. You know, I don't want to leave. Look at the blessings. Who'd ever thought that an addict like me come out the alley with the rats and the roaches, and be in Hawaii on a boat watching the dolphins on the side? It blew me out the water. Joe, I'm glad you put these things up here. I think I need one now. But yeah, that's some powerful stuff. And getting along. No fighting, no arguing, no, none of that. That's what I think about. And it's when I get depressed, I think about Hawaii. And I think about the hula girls too. Oh, let me leave that out.
Right.
I think about all that stuff, but who'd ever thought that an addict like me would be in a place like that, doing things on. Who'd ever thought I'd be at Camp Max talking about recovery? You know, when all that was important to me was getting one more, stealing, lying, and cheating. You know, begging for change, asking for change. But I look at today, you know, that's past. I can't change that. What I can change is where I'm going, you know, trying to be a stand-up person today, trying to be an example for them grandkids. I think that really is a motivating thing for me. I think that's the thing that really motivates me, helping them. I don't want them to go through what I went through. I don't know how long I'm supposed to talk, y'all. I don't know if the other person's here or not.
She's here.
Got 15 minutes? Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Joe. I love you, Joe. But protecting our recovery, like I say, and the biggest part is, like I say, the home group. Our home group is important to me. And the home groups are free. They have the autonomy to do different things that they want to do. You know, it's up to each group how they run it. That's important too, because we have a rotating format. We have people there at our home group that has ideas. We have one that especially has creative ideas on a regular basis. And, you know, people buck him a lot, but, you know, it's all in the interest of carrying the message. What's the primary purpose? The primary purpose is carrying the message. And, you know, and I think the person's idea is that don't make it boring, you know, liven it up a little bit, you know, the same thing over and over again. We do a variety of things, and like I say, we cater to the newcomer, Newcomers Day, pitch in, make hot dogs, get drinks, do the open podium, home group goes to movies, do bowling, break the monotony. You know, meetings are good, but don't make it boring. Make it buoyant. Keep it buoyant so people won't lose interest. You know, reaching people is the goal. That's our goal. The primary purpose, to help the person that's still suffering. And in that way, I think that's the whole idea. You know, I'm glad I joined that home group. If there's any meeting that I make on a regular basis, that I get there early and stay late, that's my home group. That's important to me. That gives me a purpose. That's my purpose. It's all right for me to make the coffee, mop the floor. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. When you got X amounts, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you got. It's not important. What are you giving back? And I think sometimes I go overboard with that because we need to get the newcomer involved. We need to give them something to do. We need to give them, make them feel like they're important.
That's right.
That's part of it too. And I think I hog that up sometimes, especially at that greeting, at that door. And somebody brought that to my attention. Let somebody else do that. Give them a chance to hug and learn people's names, because, you know, I learn people's names. I know them. They know me, you know, but I'm doing it on a regular basis. Practice. Practice. Let them practice. Let them feel a part of. So we're starting to do that, putting them to work, you know. I'd ask them, here, you know, do this, go over there, do that. You know, in a kind, loving way. In a kind, loving way. You know, give them some direction. You know, and most of them don't know, and they're all right with it.
Right.
They see what your intentions are. They see that, you know, you're saying it in a nice, kind way. You know, you're not a drill sergeant, but you know, a little forceful. Yeah. Put a little force to it. I don't want you to be too soft; they might not respond. But you know, that's important. That's important to let them feel a part of it, because I need to feel a part of it. I'm so grateful for them guys that held on to me when I didn't want to stay, and they surrounded me. Wow, that's a good thing when people care about you. You know, it's a good thing when people call you on that telephone and just, hi, how you doing? You know, not to hold a long conversation. You know, the key is you call. Damn, somebody called me, thought about me. You know, things like that. It's little stuff. Little stuff is important. Like I say, I need to protect my recovery by making meetings, staying in contact with my sponsors, staying in contact with my sponsorship family, my step study group, all that. All that's important to me. Being up here is important to me. Like I said, seeing the faces is important to me. Meeting new people is important to me. I want to learn some names this weekend. You know, like I said, Phil and Ricky from Cincinnati.
That's
I
right.
remember it.
Okay.
Memory ain't gone yet. It's leaving. I can still remember some stuff today, and that's important. That's important. Walk by somebody and just mention their name. That's a good thing. I'm gonna start rambling in a minute, y'all. But I'm just glad to be here. Sometimes when I get ready to leave, I don't want to go, but I got to go. But I'm gonna enjoy this weekend, and I'd just like to thank y'all for listening to me share. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, our next speaker is Lori from Michigan.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lori and I'm an addict.
Hey, Lori.
I want to take a moment of silence for my higher power and for a little prayer. Thank you. always get nervous when I'm asked to do this, but I was taught around here that when you're asked to do something, you just say yes. And when Joe asked me, he asked me to share, and he gave me the topic name, and I really like this topic, protecting your recovery. I'd like to start this off with a prayer that somebody shared with me when I was in Oklahoma recently, and some of it's familiar, some of it's not. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, wisdom to know the difference, patience for the things that take time, appreciation for all that we have, tolerance for those with different struggles, the freedom to live beyond the limitations of our past ways, the ability to feel your love for us and the love for each other, and the strength to get up and try again even when we feel it is hopeless. This prayer was shared with me, and it just means so much, and so that's why I like to share it with you. When I got to these rooms, I really just had no place else to go. I had about 3 weeks to live. My liver was about to fail, and when I got into treatment, I had lost so much weight that I couldn't stop, and I knew that I was dying. So I went to a doctor, and I just said, whatever you need to do, just do it. And I ended up in a treatment facility. I got clean in Los Angeles, and that was where I was born and raised. And I had never heard of Narcotics Anonymous before, and they didn't take us to outside meetings except for other fellowships. But there was somebody that I had worked with for many years that I had used with, and all of a sudden he wanted nothing to do with me, and I just didn't know why. But when I was in treatment, it dawned on me that he probably got clean, and so I gave him a call, and he brought me to my first Narcotics Anonymous meeting, and from the moment I got here, I just felt at home. There was no question that this is where I belong. And I was taught from a very early point in my recovery that not to joke about it, because one day I made a joke, and it scared the crap out of me, really. Somebody had come to me and said that they had something and they were about to use it. Instead, they came over to my house and they said, well, what should I do? And I said, well, let's go over there. And I just got blush, and I knew that that's not what I wanted to do, but it was a joke, and it scared me really bad. And so I know my recovery is not a joke. I have to protect it, and some of the ways that I do that is daily meditation, and I get up every morning and I read my Just for Today, and I also get it in an email, because I'm one of the types of people that I can read something and 5 minutes later I just have no clue what I read. I may remember the topic, but I just don't remember what I read. So I read it several times during the day, and I do what's called brain dumping, and I've shared this before with some people. What I do when I'm sitting at work and I have a moment, I have this pad of paper that sits under the one that I write everything that I do at work down on, and I just write whatever's in my mind, and it could be an obsession, it could be just something that's going on in my life, it could be joy, it could be anything, but I just get it out of here and I write it down. And they say a pain shared is a pain lessened, and I find that I can really let some things go that way. And sometimes I write it over and over and over again. I can write something 20 times, but then I'm not obsessing on it anymore. It just really helps that. And I didn't learn how to do this until I think it was about 10 years ago when I started doing this. At first, I'd ride the train to work every day for about an hour and 15 minutes. I lived in Chicago for a little while, and I would just write, and what I'd do is I'd tear it up, and I didn't want anyone to see it, so I'd put some in this trash can and some in that trash can, because somebody would sit there and tape it all together. And so I still do that today. I don't reread it, I just rip it up and let it go. And it's helped me so much. I just can't believe it. I was asked, it was about 5 years ago, it was my first year here at Camp Mac, and I was asked to share on complacency and recovery. And my God has a sense of humor. And that was one thing that had happened for me. You know, when I lived in California, I worked through my steps, and then I moved to Chicago, and it's so hard when you move to start over. It's like nobody knew me, and I just felt so apart, and it was really difficult to think about starting over with somebody, and I had chose a sponsor, but I wrote a little bit. I just didn't write what I needed to write, and then I moved to Michigan, and I found a sponsor, and I had her for about 3 years, and I went to sponsorship meetings, and I've never stopped going to meetings. That's the one thing I've never stopped doing, and I still go to like 4 a week, and but I didn't write the steps, and I wasn't doing anything for my recovery, and then I was asked to share here on complacency and recovery, and there was 7 years there where I didn't write. You know, I was in a new relationship, so I thought, okay, I'm cool. You know, I worked the steps early on, I'm fine, you know. Yeah, I was really fine. I was really fine. And I had just picked up the Step Working Guide before I came to Camp Mac, and I had just started to write in it. And so that for me was a real turning point, and I really appreciated being asked to share on that. And since then, I've been working my steps out of the Step Working Guide, and I have not stopped. And I'm on step 9 now, and it's so incredible. I mean, this is just life-changing. I've had so much happen in the past few years that was really, really painful. And they say we grow through pain, and they're right. Because I was writing a 4-step, and I don't know what happened. I just went nuts, and didn't know which way to turn, and I turned the wrong direction, and I can't explain anything, but I just know that I'm so grateful to the people that stuck by me, and because, you know, some of the things that happened for me were things that I judged in others, and so I was grateful that these things happened for me because I was able to understand how people can do these things and in recovery. And I'm really grateful that I stayed clean, because I don't know what I would have done without the meetings and sharing. And you know, I shared with a lot of people what I was going through, and what happened for me was one of the people closest to me turned away, and that hurt really bad. And I made some new friends, and part of me protecting my recovery is sticking with the winners, and really knowing that people that are in my life care about me. Because my sponsor would call it, she called it taking in strays. I would be friends with anyone just because I wanted to be loved so bad. And if you looked at me wrong, you didn't love me, and there was something wrong with me. And so I would just go for numbers. And what happened was, through the pain that I went through, I stopped doing that, because the people that didn't care about me were the ones that talked about me and stabbed me in the back. And the ones that called me and said, you know what, you're acting really weird, are you okay? And those are the people that are still in my life today. And I'm really grateful for those people, because, you know, when we see people and they might have either been doing something out of the normal for them, or gaining weight really fast, or losing weight really fast, I'm learning how to reach out to those people and ask them, you know, are you okay? And because that's what I needed at that time, because it was so out of my character to be doing the things that I was doing. And so I really appreciate the support of this fellowship, because this fellowship has saved my life ever since I came to these rooms. And you know, I get experience, strength, and hope from anybody with 1 day clean, 1 minute clean, you know, to you know, 40 years clean. And you never know, you know, we can sit in a meeting and all of the people in this room can hear somebody share and get something completely different out of it. You know, one person may hear one thing and another person may hear another, you know, and I could listen to a CD and get a different thing out of it every time I listen to it. And it's just where I'm at that moment. You know, it goes along with the reading too. I can read something today and something will stand out to me, and then tomorrow something else will. And one of the things that was introduced to me when I was in Oklahoma at this convention was the line number basic text. And I don't know if you people have seen it, but I think that Jean has one up there, and it is the most incredible thing that I've ever seen, because I'm the type of person that if I read a whole paragraph, I may catch the first sentence, but I don't catch the rest of them. And how the line numbered basic text works, how it was taught to me, was that one person reads a line, and then the next person reads the next line, and the next person reads the next line. And what I do is I have a piece of paper sitting right in front of me, and I write down the number of a sentence that stands out, and that's what we talk about in the meeting. And what I've done is I've gone to girlfriends that I've known for a while, and I've asked them for help. Can you help me read step 1? And what it's done for us is it has opened a whole new relationship between me and that other person. It's just so powerful. I can't even believe it. And that weekend that I was introduced to it, I did step 1 on Friday, step 2 on Saturday, and I was the speaker on Sunday. And we did step 3 on Sunday morning right before I spoke. And wow. I mean, I just, you know what? I can't say enough about the literature. I'm in a program of recovery, and if I'm not working the program, which is our basic text, then I'm in a fellowship. I'm not in a program. And I had so much pain in those 7 years. I mean, it was okay at first, and then I started sinking down and down and down to where I didn't know which way to go. You know, I didn't stop doing service work, and I didn't stop going to meetings, and I didn't stop calling people. But I wasn't working the program of recovery, and I wasn't growing, and I wasn't changing. Oh, I said, you know, yeah, I'm picking a defect, and I'm working on it, and then I'll pick another one. That was just a bunch of crap. I'll tell you right now, that was a bunch of crap. And so I really appreciate the people in my life that are working the steps. I think that the step working guide was the best thing that ever came about. At first, when I looked at it, I thought, you know what, there's questions in here that they don't pertain to me. I got a few years clean, you know, I don't need to answer that question. And when I started writing from that, those were the questions that I got the most writing out of. And that just blows me away. It's like the moment I think something's not for me, my socks get blown off. And I don't know, it's like a whole new beginning, a whole new life. You know, it's never too late to start doing this. It's never too late until we use. But we can always come back. Since I've been in these rooms, I was so scared at the end that I haven't relapsed yet. But I know that if I don't protect my recovery and surround myself with the people that love me and with recovery, then I know that I'll use just as easy as anybody else. And there were some meetings that I used to go to that I called my meat and potatoes meetings. And then there were the other ones that I called, you know, for socializing that were a little bigger, and I'd go to see people. And I stopped going to those meetings, and I started just going to meat and potato meetings. And we have so many in my area. We're so fortunate. I live in Kalamazoo now, and we are so fortunate. I mean, even Battle Creek and Jackson don't have what we've got. I hear from people in recovery out there, and we are just so lucky that we have, you know, great meetings and great people, and I don't know, I feel real lucky. Before I moved there, I had to scope it out. You know how you used to take a trip and you'd have to find where the dope was? Well, I check it out, you know, where the meetings are and how the recovery is. Because I'll tell you right now, Kalamazoo, being from LA, Kalamazoo was something I had never heard of, never wanted to hear of. And, you know, I don't even know how I ended up, like, I think his name was Bob that shared before me. Who would have thought that I would be sitting here today in recovery with all you people, you know? I mean, my God, this is my favorite retreat all year. You know, it's something that my husband and I do together, and I don't know, I can't say enough about the people that I've met here, the relationships that I've formed. I'm so grateful. And, you know, I never went to the dope house and they asked me how I was and gave me a hug when I walked in. That just, I don't know about you guys, but that just didn't happen for me. And I feel so good. You know, I've gone through a lot of pain through some of the step writing that I've done and some of the things that people have shared with me. And recently, somebody shared with me some abuse that had gone on. And the next day, I was called to jury duty and I had to get on a domestic assault case. And the guy had broken his girlfriend's nose and said he was in Chicago. You know, I wasn't there. And there were so many times where, first of all, I just said I wasn't there. Well, I probably wasn't up here. But, you know, it made me remember some of the abuse that I had gone through. And I haven't gone through that in recovery. I had gotten my cheekbone broken when I was in high school and by a boyfriend who I made every excuse for in the book. I said, oh, he's got a rough life and his family life is no good, and I made every excuse for him and I didn't leave, and because I felt so stuck. And this girlfriend of mine, she's actually the girlfriend of somebody in recovery, and I met her through him. And she's not in recovery, but she's got just so much to share, and she was in a 20-year abusive relationship and shared with me a little bit about how that felt and how you get stuck and all that, and it helped me remember some of that stuff, and I have so much respect for myself today. I truly love myself, and that's something that I couldn't say when I got to these rooms, and I couldn't say it for the first probably 10 years, that I really truly love myself. But I will never, ever let myself be abused again. And I'm in a marriage that is, you know, we're friends. You know, we had some rough spots, and what happened was we worked through it. And it's made it that much stronger. We wanted to run. About 2 years ago, we wanted to run really bad because things got really hard. They got really difficult, and we didn't know how to get back. And what we did was we reached out to people that had 30-year marriages or 20-year marriages, that they had rough spots and they worked through them. You know, because when I want to learn how to do something, I go to people that are doing it. When I want to learn how to work a step, I go to somebody who has done it, and I ask them, how did you do this? You know, I have to go to people that have experience, strength, and hope. And that goes for anything in my life. When I need financial help, I go to a financial advisor. I don't go to my sponsor. When I want relationship advice or just to share, I go to somebody that's in a relationship that might have experienced this. And we're not experts around here, but we do have a hell of a lot of experience, strength, and hope to give. And when I ask for it, I've always been given it. And some of the hardest things are to do is to share where I'm at and ask for help, because that's something that I never knew how to do. I always thought that I could just do it on my own, and I can't. This is a we fellowship. This is not an I fellowship. And some of the things that happened for me were things that I didn't want to share. You know, I didn't want to share where I was at or what I was doing or where I was going. And one of the things that I learned is if you go to the barbershop long enough, you are going to get a haircut, whether you plan on it or not. And it was really, really painful for me. And so I don't go to bars and think that I'm cool. I used to, when I wasn't working and I lived in Chicago, I used to go line dancing. And I'd go there late at night, and I went with somebody in recovery, and there was like a bunch of us that would go. The instructor was in recovery, and I thought, wow, this is really cool, and I had a lot of fun learning. And then my girlfriend that I went with started using. She started going to that bar and drinking, and that told me right there, you know what, you go to the barbershop long enough. And so I don't go on 12-step calls by myself. I don't go to dope houses trying to drag somebody into recovery. I found so much around these rooms, and I want to share it with the whole world. And so when I first got clean, I shared it with my family, and what I got was, none of them are addicts. And my brother told me it was a crock of shit. I don't know if I was supposed to say that, but that was the words he used. He just said that it just didn't make any sense to him. And a few years later, he came to me and he says, I still really don't understand it, and I don't believe in it, but I see something changing in your life, and I think that's really cool. We don't have to try to recruit everybody. There's somebody at work that every morning he smells like alcohol, and I would love to give him literature, but I can't do that. I can't hang around with people that are using. Even there were some people that were around in my area that ended up going back out and using, and they still wanted to hang out with us and go play pool, and I didn't come to recovery to hang out with the people that started using again, because it would be just as easy for me to do that. And so I have to protect my recovery. And I think it's so important. I really do, to not go around slippery places and not go around slippery people. It's so funny because we hear this over and over and over again in meetings, and then somebody comes in and says, well, I just go and I sit at the bar and I drink coffee and watch them because I think it's fun to watch. Well, you know what? It's going to be fun to watch them in a few months, and that really scares me because I know that when I got clean, I had 3 weeks to live, and so if I was to use, I may have 4 weeks. I don't know. I don't know if I'd ever make it back, and so many people you hear about either commit suicide. I mean, that's the reality. We had 2 people this year in Kalamazoo, commit suicide, and that was so painful, That was so painful because I just wish that they knew that they didn't have to do that, that they could stay clean and they could do this. This is a really simple program for complicated minds, and I want to complicate everything that I do and make it more difficult on myself, and it's just not, because if we look at the whole picture, I know for me, when I look at the whole picture, I get overwhelmed. When I moved out of LA to Chicago, I didn't have a place to live, I didn't have a job, and I didn't have a car, and I didn't know anyone. So the first thing that I did was I started going to meetings, and I instantly had friends. Then I found a job which enabled me to get a car and then a place to live. If I look at the whole picture, I get overwhelmed and I want to run. That's my nature, is to run. And so when I look at like the step working guide, instead of looking at the whole thing, I look at one question at a time, one sentence at a time, and I just do it. I just pick up that pen and just do it. And it's not easy at times, and I still want to run sometimes, but you know what? I haven't yet. I can't say that I won't, but I haven't yet. Some of the amends that I have to make, I really just don't want to make it. And in the 8th step, it asks if you're willing, and I just said no. I have no willingness. And as time has gone on, and I've journaled and done brain dumps, my willingness is getting more and more and more, to where this morning when I was journaling up in my room, I wrote that I think I might have some sort of willingness. It's like, it doesn't just get there for me. It's like getting in a pool. I don't just dive in. I have to go in slowly and, try it out and splash myself a little. And that's how it is with me, for this particular amends, because I just, I had to go from no willingness to where I'm at this morning, and it's starting to get there. And, you know, this is about progress, not about instant gratification or perfection or any of that stuff, because, you know, for me, you know, instant gratification only worked for one moment. Like I'd feel like upset or, you know, something like that, and I'd go shopping. And then all of a sudden that night it's like I'm looking at it going, I didn't even want that. But it made me feel better for that moment. And so I've learned, you know, and there's times where I still do stuff like that. Absolutely. You know, but I'm really working on that area and taking it one day at a time and trying not to do that. You know, and then I look at the wreckage and I look at the mess, and in my closet it's like there's so much stuff. It's like unmanageability. You know, you can see unmanageability right in front of your face and not realize that that's what it is. And so I've really, I've been praying on it, and that's something that I had never done before, is turn to my higher power instead of just thinking that I could do that on my own. I know that for me, my higher power talks to me in my gut. I don't know how other people do it, but that's my understanding, is that when I think, you know, I really want that, and my gut tells me, you know, you really don't need it, you really shouldn't, you know, it's not gonna make you feel better. That's my higher power talking to me. And there's times where I just say, you know what, quiet. But there's times where if I just wait a moment, just a moment, however long that moment is, I'll realize what I'm doing and walk away. And I don't know. It's all been learning process for me. I'm one of those people that's really slow, and need to take things one at a time. And to be honest, when I stopped working the steps back 7 years ago, I hadn't worked my ninth. I had started writing on my ninth, but I had never worked it. So this is the first time I'm working my ninth step. You know, and that's hard to admit because I've been around for a little while. But you know what? That's about the honesty in my program today, and that's what's keeping me clean is getting brutally honest. And you know, another thing that I learned, somebody said to me, there's a difference between brutally honest and being brutal, and I never thought about that. You know, nothing around here is original, and you know, nothing I've said is original. Nothing I've heard is original. It's what we hear around here, and it's what we pick up on, and it's what keeps us clean today. You know, I thought, okay, I'm sharing at 9 o'clock. I really didn't tell hardly anybody, and I thought, well, nobody's gonna be there. Cool. You know, and this room's like got a lot of people, and I don't know. It's funny. I get so nervous, and then once I start sharing, especially if they let me sit, because my knees lock and I get really nervous, and you know, but if I can sit, I feel a lot better. One of the things that I went through lately about protecting your recovery is I started feeling some symptoms of something, and so I went to a doctor, and I found out that I needed surgery. And I was just so scared because I knew that they were going to put me on medication. And the one thing that they told me was that it was going to be really painful for about a week, and that they would have me on morphine the first 24 hours, and a button that you push like every 8 minutes, and then they're going to send me home with pain meds, and that it would probably be pretty bad. And I was so scared. I didn't know what to do. I was sharing about it left and right. You know, and at one moment I was thinking, wow, cool, morphine. You know, that was something I really liked back then. And I had to admit that because, you know what, that's not okay. And, but it's that sick mind sometimes. It's like, it takes me all kinds of places. And if I keep it inside, I'm going to stay in those places. But if I share it, I get out of those places. And what ended up happening was God put this thing in Oklahoma in my life 3 days before my surgery. And so I went out to this convention, and a bear was put in my life. It's just the Just for Today bear. It's just this little stupid purple bear. And it was what my sponsor used when she was going through a really hard time, and it helped her through the pain. And so I got this bear, and when I was sharing, I passed it around the room, and everybody hugged it. And I brought it to work for 2 days, and people that I care about at work gave my bear hugs, and they actually let me bring this bear in surgery with me. And it was funny because I went to change into my lovely robe that they give you, you know, that ties in the back. It wasn't one of these, but it was one of those. And so I come out, and the little bear's got this thing on its paw, you know, for the blood pressure. It was so cute. They were really, the nurses were really fun. And I don't know, when I was going through that little bear gave me so much. It sounds so stupid, but this little bear gave me so much love because of all the people that hugged it. And I had some visitors in the hospital too, and it was really weird, you know, because I was really, you know, I'm sure I was really out of it. I called my husband right out of surgery, and I don't even remember doing that. And that was a feeling that I really, you know, was uncomfortable for me. But they told me to push this button like every 8 minutes, and they were amazed because it was like every 2 hours that I did that. And I made it through that, and I had my husband hold everything for me, and I was able to get off everything with the love of you guys in 4 days. And yeah, I'm so grateful because you know what? When I was coming home on the plane from Oklahoma, I was so filled with love and joy that I just started crying really hard on the plane, and I was like hoping nobody would see me, but I was just so scared that I was going to give up this, you know. I was really scared, and because that's a reality, you know, people have to be on pain meds, and that's a reality, or you know, antidepressants or whatever. And I was really scared, you know. I was just really scared because you know, I didn't want to misuse it, and I didn't want anything to happen. And my husband would give me what I needed for that day, and when he'd come home, there would always be some left. And I was really proud of that, and really happy about that, and I was able to get off it. And I don't know, it just worked. And as long as I stay open and vigilant and share where I'm at, I get the help I need. I get the help from my higher power, and I get the help I need, because I know that I could have taken it. They told me to take 2-3 times a day, and I could have taken 2, but I didn't need to. And if you don't need to, that, to me, that's just to me, because I don't know how other people feel, but that to me is using or misusing. And you know, even though he said, take it this way, if I take less, that's okay. If I take more, it's not okay. But I'm really grateful, and I don't know how I got through all that, because you know, I've gone to many doctors telling them, yeah, my back really hurts, you know, and they give me all kinds of things, and that wasn't what this was about, and it felt really good. And I ended up having to use drugs that I used when I was out there using, and that it's not easy, but I made it through it. So if anybody has to do it, we're not martyrs either. You know, if we're in true pain and we need medication, and the doctor says that, you know, sometimes we need to do that, but we can do it in ways that is not dangerous to our recovery. And you know, because I gave everything to someone and they held it for me, and all I did was I asked for help, and that is so difficult for somebody like me to ask for help. But you know, it's getting easier. You know, when I use the phone, when I'm not in pain, it gets easier to use it when I am in pain. And it all goes down to protecting my recovery. You know, and another thing is about the rooms. You know, when we're in meetings and there's a lot of crosstalk or a lot of people getting up or somebody loaded in the meeting, you know, all we need is the desire. So the being loaded, that's cool, you know, because sometimes people do have to come loaded. But it's about keeping an atmosphere of recovery for the newcomers, you know. Because somebody can walk into a meeting, and if there's a whole lot of chaos going on, they may not want to stick around. They may want to walk out. And this program is about the newcomer, and it is, they are the most important person here. And so trying to provide an atmosphere of recovery is really, really important to me. And I've pissed off a lot of people, I was in the middle of sharing one day, and these two guys were talking. I said, "Am I bothering you?" And they were pissed, but you know what? I was really uncomfortable, and I lose my train of thought really easily. So I did that, and oh well, So I pissed off somebody. It's happened before. It's probably going to happen again. I may have done that today. I don't know. But anyhow, I don't even know how long I'm supposed to share, but I feel really good to be here, and I want to thank Joe for calling me. I know you've called me many times to speak in South Bend on a Sunday night, but I'm like a person that goes to bed at like 8 and gets up at 4. So South Bend, 2 hours away at 8 o'clock at night wasn't, especially, well, I think that you guys aren't changing, or you are changing time now. So you're still, because I thought yesterday when I left home, I thought, okay, I'll leave at 1, I'll get there at 1. Well, I got there at probably 3 because of all the traffic jams, but yeah, I think that you guys are on the same time as Michigan now, so yeah, that's really late for me. But anyhow, I'm really grateful to be here, to have been asked to share. It's an honor. To see people that I truly love, that some of them I only get to see once or several times a year, But I'm working on that too, is getting around, you never know where I might end up next, I just kind of take a road trip and end up at a meeting somewhere, and I love doing that. And now that the weather's getting nice, it makes me want to do that much more. Anyhow, thank you.